This was sent for review. All opinions are my own, no money change hands. They see the video at the same time as everybody else. So thanks to the team at UPERFECT, the O2 OLED 120Hz HDR 16-inch 16:10 and touch capable, a very promising product that I should have reviewed a while back, but Canada had a bit of a postal conflict, let's say. Well, about a month later than the original date, it finally reached me, and boy was I glad. I didn't waste a minute. I opened it, took out all the things, the panel, the instructions, the USB-C to USB-A, USB-C to USB-C, the HDMI to mini HDMI, and of course this little power block, which gives us an important hint about this panel. As it turns out, this block carries 30 watts of power. 30 watt is a lot, and if it's any indication, it is that this panel might be power hungry, which in itself is not a problem if flexibility can be had. This brings me to what this review is about. Of course, we'll go over the pros, the cons, we'll test out its compatibility with a multitude of devices, and by the end, you'll know if it's worth your time and money. So on the body, the front is your panel, and you do have dead space at the bottom of it, about an inch high. The left side houses your navigation buttons, the right side is where you'll plug 1 or 2 USB-Cs as well as a mini HDMI input. If you never used a portable monitor, there are two ways of operating them. One is by supplying a USB-C from another device that is USB-C video out capable. Some examples of such devices are iPhones, many though not every Android phones, iPads, Android tablets, handheld PCs such as a Steam Deck, a Rogue Ally, and many more. Macs, PCs, retro handhelds, a Nintendo Switch, asterisk there, and ultimately probably many more devices, but as is always to be wary of, compatibility may vary. The other method is using any device with an HDMI out, and that covers pretty much everything else in existence. If you're connecting through HDMI, you must include an external source of power. What does that look like? Well, this can be a USB-A to USB-C from, say, your Xbox Series console or your PS5. This can also be from a power block like the one included, or simply another USB-C connector from, say, a MacBook. However, if you are only using one USB-C, this may not always require an external source of power. That'll depend on the host's device external power rating. It's always a trial and error, but what I can tell you is that most other devices I have will power the panel fine. The next thing to keep in mind is that without an external source of power, the OLED monitor may work, but not to its full extent. So in the best conditions, you'll always have more juice to give the UPERFECT panel, and that can be coming from a wall outlet, a USB port, a power bank, or in some cases, such as with this Red Magic phone, it's giving out as much as it possibly need, but the more is needed, the more it'll drain your host device, since this panel does not bring any power of its own. Some panels do have batteries in them, but they tend to be bulkier and heavier. This one, being just 720 grams, is quite light in comparison to some options out there. It's also very slim, as you can see. With this out of the way, I will carry the rest of this review under the observation that the panel is being supplied everything that it can receive, as it is only then that you will get the best experience out of it. And when doing so, we're talking up to 2880 by 1800 for a 212 ppi, and though I haven't laid hands on dozens and dozens of portable monitors in my lifetime, this is indeed amongst the better experiences I've had, which rekindles a debate I had on a video I made about OLED panels a while back. Yes, there are 4K LCD panels on the market, but in comparison, I find this OLED one to offer a greater per pixel visual fidelity, and I always account this to having self-emissive pixels, which could effectively prevent light leakage to adjacent pixels. It just looks amazing. The colors are superb. The panel does have a bit of warmth out of the box, but this can fully be addressed either through presets or with user preferred settings. You can also adjust brightness and contrast. There are presets there as well. Keep in mind that power availability may affect this functionality. Now, you also have two speakers neatly tucked at the backboard bridge. Though serviceable in a pinch, you might find yourself not wanting to make use of those speakers if it can be avoided. They lack any depth, and while volume can get decently loud as they are back-facing, even the volume risks being drowned out in open space. In a PC, you'll be able to adjust the resolution and frame rate, which can go up to 120 Hz, which is amazing for gaming. HDR signal is accepted, but as is the case with many portable monitors I've observed, it is is a fake HDR and an extra step will be required, and when having done so, I find the color warmth to shift beyond comfort. While this can be adjusted, the lack of profiles make HDR something that, while present, is best not to be used if you intend to move from devices to devices. No VRR options, and the color space is limited to 8-bit, which may have color graders step away from, but for everything else, OLED does a lot to that 8-bit color space to make it pop in the most beautiful way, so no worries to be had. Overall, it's been an extremely positive panel to use, and I know that this will remain a regularly used product in my everyday life, but it's not without flaws. And the most terrible, and it really is terrible, is that cover that comes bundled with the panel. It is meant to be used as a kickstand, and while yes, it technically can, expecting to use it as such is nothing short of a bad joke, nearly a prank. So if you consider buying this product, do yourself a solid and get that VESA stand instead, which you can bet I would have bought if I didn't came up with this better solution, but just to stick a MagSafe sticker and use it with this green MagSafe stand. Not only does it give it this mini monitor look, it's actually extremely great to sit next to my MacBook Pro as a secondary screen. Another way that I like to use this thing is by strapping it to a Galileo G8 Plus around it and have my Red Magic stuck behind using MagSafe again. And because the screen is touch, I can fully operate the phone as if it would be a tablet itself. Talking about touch, your mileage may vary. On iOS devices, touch is most likely to not work or work as with a trackpad, but without the iOS trackpad tropes. It's not a great experience, but it does work, quote unquote. On Android, it's pretty nice, though not as nice as would your touchscreen be. I found the best experience to be on handheld PCs, where it is responsive and exactly as if you'd be operating a laptop with a touchscreen panel. It's a cool feature to have, and I think the best way to approach this is, if you don't feel like you need it, don't get it. But the moment you have it, you will not want to be rid of that feature, as it just answers to the modern approach that we have with more consumer electronics nowadays of just being able to touch to move forward. I most certainly wish it played nicer with Apple devices, but please know that this is due to Apple's proprietary tools. Without an MFI license, these tools are simply not geared to operate the same way that Apple's licensed solutions and priority ones are. This brings me to the conclusion of this review. At $399, which is what is listed as discounted on UPERFECT's website, it is pretty amazing. The truth is, we're starting to see OLED monitors of 24 and 27 inch slowly reaching that low price point on sales. But if just looking at flexibility alone, this panel is one that unlocks a lot more convenience. It all comes down to what works best for your gaming or productivity flow. For me, this is a panel that can be used for gaming, especially mobile gaming. It can be for productivity, and it can also be used for production. And it doesn't matter what, when, and where. It's just an amazing experience throughout, thanks to the phenomenal specs. In fact, I know there are compromises when going for portable monitors versus standalone ones, but this is one that does not really feel like making any. This feels much closer to a no compromise approach than any other portable monitor I used before, because of its specs, but above all else, because of the experience that comes out of this panel. Before putting this review to an end, it supports reverse charging, which means that if you supply external power while using another USB device such as a phone, a tablet, or a handheld PC, panel will charge the host device as long as enough power is supplied. If you have any questions, you know how to ask them. Thank you again, UPERFECT, for sending out this amazing panel. Thank you for clicking and watching this video. Please consider doing all the liking and subscribing for more gaming tech reviews. And as always, I'll see you on the next one. You're still here. Well, thank you very much for an amazing 2024. I wish you, of course, health, great food, great moments with your family and loved ones, and I'll see you in the next year. Thank you very much for watching. Peace.